Hello.
Hi.
So, this is episode 1 of our Debrief series for our Appalachian Trail through hike video series. What we're going to do is every time we get in town or a major town, we're going to try and do a debrief of the previous 10 to 15 days. Kind of go over some of the challenges we faced, some things we enjoyed, maybe favorite gear, maybe
Funny experience that happened.
all sorts of stuff. So this is, as of right now, we are currently in Hiawassee, Georgia. So, day 1, we did the approach trail. The approach trail kicked our butts. Majorly. Being that we trained on the Florida Trail, which is really flat, the approach trail has a lot of peaks in it that we were not expecting. We understood that there were stairs involved, which we were prepared for, but it was all the peaks after that really, all the climbs, and for every climb there was a descent, and it took forever to get to the final peak of Springer Mountain. And
there were a lot of false summits, and I think that was really hard, at least for me, to push through.
Complicated by the fact that we brought way too much food with us. So we probably had enough food for 6 days, but that could be stretched to 10. Like we
It ended up working out pretty well. It probably was too much food, but in the long run we ended up taking our time and taking some slow mileage days, so we really stretched.
That food gave us the flexibility to kind of take it slow, but I mean, we still have 2 dinners each from our first initial food supply. So one of the surprises of this adventure that we're taking on is how hard the mental game is. I had a inkling that it was going to be a challenge for Jess the first few weeks, and that's why I set a goal of we're not really going to care too much about mileage. The goal is just to kind of stay on the trail for the first 2 weeks, and then after the first 2 weeks we'll kind of get our trail legs under us, and then we'll start paying attention to mileage. But that mental game kicked in real quick from day 1. I mean, there were tears on both sides, me and her, on day 1. That was, I'm sure you see from the video, it was, by the end of it we were toasted.
I was drained emotionally. Not only was it just, things that the trail throws at you mentally that are just kind of rough to overcome, just a lot of stuff from home came up of, there was a death in the family that we thought we had maybe a little bit more time, and time ran out really fast. And we weren't expecting it to happen that soon, and a week in, hearing that news, it's definitely not easy.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge having to face that.
And being away from home and away from family, and definitely thankful that I had you to get me through that.
What were you think some of your biggest challenges of the first 10 days? I know for me it was hygiene. Hygiene was a major challenge. We brush our teeth. That's good. We kept make sure we brush our teeth, but 2 people in the same tent and the same hiking clothes and the same tent clothes every day for 11 days without being able to wash them, it was definitely something that affected our morale a little bit, is not being able to get clean.
It's obviously something that you're just going to get used to. It's trail life and it's just part of it, but getting into that, I think that was very hard to, you're uncomfortable a lot the first week to 2 weeks, so that was definitely also one of my struggles of just not feeling clean, feeling very uncomfortable.
We got you a razor, so that's one of your luxury items now. You're going to be able to...
One of my luxury items now that I do not care how much it weighs. It's something that the entire time we were out there I was like, I really want one, and that's all I could think of. Maybe that'll give me a little bit more comfort, or make me feel a little bit more comfortable during this whole process.
How was the food? Were any major challenges with the food?
Not really.
Not really good?
I mean, the food situation is not bad. I like most of the food that we're eating. It's just sometimes the hiker hunger hasn't kicked in yet. So it's like you did this crazy mileage today, and you really need to be putting in those calories and eating the protein, but your body's kind of just like,
and we're so tired by the end of the day that it's tough to really.
I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
But really, you're probably starving. But you're just like, no, I'm okay. I can maybe eat a ramen, maybe not. So I think that's probably going to be one of my major struggles until that kicks in, is getting enough calories in and making sure I'm eating enough, because I'm already thin enough, and we're obviously going to lose weight on this, so just keeping the weight on for me is going to be a major long-term struggle, I think.
What are the good parts of the trail so far that you think?
Good parts of the trail are spending time back in nature and the views. Just the incredible mile-long views that
we had a lot of days that were in the clouds, but towards the end of
that was cool.
Yeah, towards the end it definitely opened up and got warm, and someone got a sunburn a little bit.
I got really sunburnt.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
What was your favorite piece of gear over the first 10 days?
Favorite piece of gear would have to be my hiking pants. I started out with a very thin pair. I started out with...
This is what she was going to hike in.
Very, very just basic, thin pair of, workout leggings that I had had for a while. I was comfortable. I liked, I had trained in them in our Florida colder weather. And we actually took a Greyhound bus from our hometown to Atlanta to get us to the trail. And, we were wearing our hiking gear that we were going to be hiking in. And we got off in Atlanta. It was early morning, and it was probably in the 40s.
It's cold. I was in shorts and a t-shirt.
It was cold, and the wind picked up. It was really windy, which of course made it feel a lot colder than it was. And I'm walking around Atlanta going, I do not think I can hike in these. So we ended up, having to pick up a few extra things. Drew actually needed a pair of hiking pants. So we went and looked for me, and that's probably my favorite piece of gear so far is the hike. What was your favorite piece of gear?
I would have to say probably my new hat. Actually, I'm kidding. My favorite piece of gear would have to be our tent. We had kind of done some research, and couples who previously through hiked the AT, there was a recommendation that you get a 3-person tent, and we accepted that recommendation, and we got a Marmot Limelight 3-person. And while it's probably a little bit heavier than what most people carry, it probably is the weight of a 2-person normal tent, not an ultralight tent, like a 2-person normal tent for each of us. So we each carry a 2-person tent, and it adds up to a 3-person tent. So the math doesn't quite shake out, but
it works. It's nice.
It's nice to be able to get all your gear into the tent.
It's nice to be able to stand up and get changed.
You have a lot of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as cramped, so when we're all with the smelly clothes, it's easier to air it out.
Yeah.
The fly is nice and big, so when it's raining, she can get in there and break down the tent with keeping it dry.
Mm-hmm.
So the morale for keeping everything dry is a huge plus, because when everything's wet and you're all wet, you're just miserable. So if you can manage to keep everything dry and keep your stuff dry and keep yourself dry, it's a huge boost to morale. In one of our previous episodes, we mentioned an injury.
Yes, Blood Mountain Day.
The Blood Mountain Day. So what that was a trekking pole incident where I'm gonna let her kind of give the details.
So we were going down Blood Mountain. It was really misty. If you look back in our other video, it was very misty, very windy.
And it stormed the day before.
It stormed the day before, so there was a lot of just standing water on trail. There was a lot of mud. It was very slippery, and that's a hard descent on a good day. And
very muddy.
We went down on a not so good day.
And we were rushing to get to a hostel, so it was like perfect storm of people were rushing us from behind. So it was a perfect storm of a bad situation.
We're heading down. We're probably about halfway. We're heading down a little bit of a tricky spot. There's a group of hikers coming behind us, and there was nowhere for us to kind of move out of the way to let them go ahead. So we were trying
We just
to
had
take
to overcome
our time.
this specific tough section of the trail, and then
Yeah.
we could get to the side and they could pass.
And they could pass. But they kind of roared up a little bit, and so he went down this tricky spot before I did, and he's like, be careful, it's a little slippery. So I start to go down, and he goes to turn around and just, kind of watch me to make sure I'm okay. And I start to go down, and I slip and landed on my butt. Thankfully, I didn't hurt anything. I didn't really even feel it. It didn't hurt at all.
I went to catch her.
Yep, he went to catch me, and he still had his trekking poles
On my
attached
wrist.
to his wrists. And as he went to catch me, and obviously I landed on him, my full weight and my pack weight landed on the trekking pole, which then went down into his foot. Scraped it up a bit. It went through his shoe, ripped a hole in your darn tufts,
Through a hole in darn tufts.
and 2 layers of socks, and kind of just scraped the edge of his foot.
I'm gonna splice in a picture that she took of my foot when it was in the hospital, when it was
Not
elevated.
pretty. That was
So,
a couple hours after.
Close your eyes if you're squeamish. It's not too bad, but if you don't like medical stuff, go ahead. I'm gonna splice it in 3, 2, 1, now. Well, actually, the biggest problem with that has not been the pain so much as keeping it clean and making sure it doesn't get infected. It had a little pus action the next couple days because just being in shoes when everything's wet, it's really tough. But we got some antibiotics and it's on the mend. The descent down from Blood Mountain was definitely very precarious. One of the hikers after us that went down actually slipped down in the section that we actually show on our video. It's the section that I'm going down, and I tell her to make sure the trekking poles were anchored. So if you go back, that's the section some guy slipped down, and you really can't tell in those videos how steep it is. It's literally like this, and because of the way the camera, the perception of the camera, you can't really tell. But it going down, that is steep. So someone broke their ankle. They were up on the mountain for 6 hours while the EMTs were trying to get them down in a wheeled stretcher.
It took them about 6 to 7 hours for them to get up, get to the guy who either broke his ankle or his leg. We're not too sure. And then to bring him back down the mountain.
Yeah. So, but at the end of that, we had the hostel. So we made the hostel. We had to stay in the hostel.
It was probably one of my favorite memories so far was.
Yeah.
Just sitting and talking with everybody and sharing stories and laughing
Decompressing after the first
over pizza
leg,
and soda,
yeah.
and it was fun.
The best frozen pizza I ever had.
So good.
That's true that hunger is the best seasoning, because that is the best frozen pizza I ever had.
Ever.
Bar none. So this ends our Hiawassee, Georgia debrief video of the first 13 days. Day 13 is a 0. Tomorrow will be 6.
Yep.
We got to get our chores done. We got to wash some pots and stuff.
It's getting late. It's 8:45.
Our next major town stop is going to be Franklin, North Carolina. I don't know if that's going to be far enough away to really do a full debrief video, but we're going to do these every 10 to 15 days or so throughout the entire 6 months. So, bye.
Bye.